The Shadow of the Dust, the legend of the indomitable Bass Reeves. Imagine a man who stood 6'2" in an era of giants, a man who escaped the shackles of slavery only to become the most feared lawman in the American frontier. He arrested over 3,000 outlaws, was never wounded despite being shot at countless times, and eventually had to hunt down his own son. This isn't a tall tale from a dime novel. This is the cold, hard, and breathtaking history of Bass Reeves. The sun over the Arkansas River didn't just shine, it punished. In the summer of 1862, the air was a thick blanket of humidity and gunpowder. Bass Reeves stood in the tall grass, his breath shallow, listening to the thundering hooves of Confederate horses in the distance. He was a runaway, a contraband, fleeing the man who claimed to own him, Colonel George Reeves. Bass hadn't just run, he had fought. After a dispute over a card game turned into a physical altercation where Bass laid out the colonel with his bare fists, he knew the only path left was the wilderness. He fled into the Indian Territory, the land we now call Oklahoma. It was a lawless expanse, a sanctuary for those the civilized world wanted to forget. Survival in the nations. For years, Bass lived among the Cherokee, Seminole, and Creek nations. He didn't just hide, he adapted. He learned their languages, their scouting techniques, and most importantly, he became a master marksman. He discovered that a rifle wasn't just a tool for hunting, it was an extension of his own will. By the time the Civil War ended and the 13th Amendment was signed, Bass emerged from the wilderness not as a fugitive, but as a man with a set of skills that the United States government desperately needed. The badge and the burden. The Indian Territory had become a dead man's land. It was the primary hideout for every murderer, horse thief, and train robber in the South. In 1875, hanging judge Isaac Parker was appointed to bring order to the chaos. Parker needed 200 deputies who were brave enough to enter the territory and smart enough to come back alive. Because Bass knew the land and the languages better than any white man, he was handed a badge. He was one of the first black Deputy U.S. Marshals west of the Mississippi. The outlaws didn't take him seriously at first. They saw a black man in a dusty coat and thought he was easy prey. They were wrong. Bass was a master of disguise. One week he would dress as a raggedy beggar to sneak into a gang's camp. The next, he would appear as a wealthy traveler. He carried 2 huge .45 caliber Colt peacemakers, worn butts forward for a cross-draw. He was so fast that witnesses claimed he could draw and fire before a man could blink. Yet, despite the violence of his profession, Bass was a man of deep, almost spiritual integrity. He was known for his silver parley, his ability to talk a man into handcuffs. But if they reached for a gun, Bass never missed. Subscribe for my channel. Thank you for watching.